what do we mean when we say production houses? And what do we mean when we say consumption houses? So when you look at the economic equation, okay, let's assume every human being, every adult is an economic operator. That's a neutral term. We have not said whether they are consumers or they are producers. So when you are faced with choices, you have money or you have resources. You either deploy those resources in two directions, either to produce things that we can say that what you have done is you've consumed resources, or to produce things where we can say you have created something that can produce and increase the outputs. So now consumption houses are those houses that tend to consume our resources. You have to put in, of course, drawings, building materials, labor, and of course money. And after you finish doing this task, you have a structure that is standing, either just like a house, a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom house. It has consumed resources, and that's the end of the story. But a production house is different. You put in inputs with an expectation to get out something, like outputs out of it, not just the luxury of living or passing time or naming rooms that this is now the library, this is. So you create a structure, and the calculation of what you're putting into it is dictated by what you expect to get out in return. That's a production house. Okay? So the danger of beginning with consumption houses is that the game ends. You can't play the game again. But with a production house, as you produce more, for example, if it's a poultry house, as you produce more birds, you can sell them to the market, and then you can build another house. So if you began with 100 birds, you can have 1,000, and then 100,000, as much as you have grace. So a production house has that inbuilt feature where it triggers you to say, now that you've successfully done this stage, do another one. And don't get it wrong, a consumption house can actually be a production house from the perspective of landlords, because the landlord builds and you are the one who occupies, and as you pay him, he pays off the debt, and then he builds a second unit and a third unit. Only that if you purely build a consumption house, the pace is slow. But if you build a consumption house, a production house, the pace is faster. The pace of replication is faster, because that house has got no extra things. Like, see, if you do a residential house, you might have a TV room. What happens in a TV room? You're just consuming news and entertainment, okay? But when you do a poultry house, it's just production. There's no room within a poultry house for entertainment. It's just bird cages, a place for feed, water. I guess you get the point. So we are drawing a clear line through between two types of houses: consumption houses and production houses. When you ask someone, when you're a single man, what questions does society pose to you? Utaoa lini? Alafu ukioa, what do they ask you again? They say, utajenga lini? Why do we ask these questions? Because we have made ourselves to believe mtu ni ploti. So when you buy the plot, they ask you utajenga lini. When you build the house, sasa mtoto atakuja lini. So you see, the whole consciousness of our society drives each one of us towards consumption. Even when you're seeking a job, you have the pay and you want to run to the next shiny thing, the next iPhone, the next mall, the next pub, the next car. All these things are consumer goods, okay? And yet, there are no ungifted humans. Just think about it. There are no ungifted humans. The question is, why is it that all houses are named according to the number of bedrooms? Like a 2-bedroom house, 3-bedroom. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom house. But yet you have more gifts than sleeping. You have more gifts. I don't know even if sleeping is a gift, but you have more gifts. Let's assume you have a talent for music. If you asked yourself, which room will be for my talent? Would you find a house that is specifically designed to have a music room? like if you went searching for a house to rent, would you find a house that is specifically designed with a music room? It is rare. You have to customize one of the bedrooms or the lounge or the sitting room to accommodate your gift. So what I'm saying is, can we accommodate the gifts that we have that are geared towards production? You see? So that if I love books, is it possible for me to own and run a library and maybe lend books to people who also love books? Now that's very different. It's not a 3-bedroom house, it's a library. The idea is this. Since we've drawn a line between these two types of houses, whatever happens on the left side is what comes from the right side. So in a typical village, for example, people consume breakfast and basically loaves and milk. But where do these two products come from? The milk comes from the farm, which means it's an agricultural produce. So the first type of production house are agricultural structures. Things where you can use, which you can build to be able to multiply animals, fowl, cows, cattle, you see, mushrooms, things which, remember these guys consume things from producers. So we need to tilt our society towards producing more. When we look at like the world statistics that say, for example, 733 million people are facing starvation in the world, that shows you that we have a deficit of producers, okay? Or simply these people can't access whatever is getting produced because maybe proximity. There's only one bakery in Nakuru, and now these guys have to wait for if something happens to that lorry, they have to wait. Yet among them there are bakers. So now we have agricultural structures, and then we have storage structures. Remember, sometimes we have wastage of food, okay? You produce, but you can't keep it beyond one planting season. So we need to have storage structures. These include things like seed banks. Right now, you can see that in a typical boma, you do not have access to more than 5 types of seeds. And yet you can actually build a structure that has 100 or 1,000 different types of seeds. And you can become that place where people can actually come. You see, it's an anomaly that we all depend on a seed company run by the government. Yet we could have seed banks within walking distance of every boma. Like if you wanted to plant Irish potatoes, you should be able to just walk to your neighbor, pay them some money, and that neighbor has thought ahead of you. He has not built a consumption house. He has postponed consumption. So all production houses have 2 main characteristics. They postpone consumption, and number one, they are built purposely to tap into our talent to produce something that we may not necessarily need by ourselves. Okay? It's not like when you make breakfast, you're making breakfast so that you consume with your family. A production house, you make even excess for others. So they respect those 2 characteristics. Okay? So there are different types of what we call production houses. And I would put them in clusters because they answer to the same question. So one example is agricultural structures. These are basically there to help you produce farm products, okay? Examples would be something like a seed bank, something like a mushroom farming house. It's a structure where you can grow mushroom for your own consumption or for the consumption of others, okay? Another structure is something like a composting shed, somewhere where people can be bringing their waste, their agricultural waste, and then you turn it into manure. This is something that produces fertilizer for people out of organic sources. And when you are in a farming community, it's not hard to imagine one place where you can be taking your excess feedstock and then people turn it into packaged fertilizer. So those are agricultural support structures. Then we have animal shelters. That's obvious. Any animal, any domestic animal, you can create structures where you multiply them. Like dog kennels where you do breeding of dogs. People can come and buy. especially if you have a gift towards these things. And the best way to approach these production houses is that it should answer to a gift that you have. So there should be something in you that helps you love that job. It's not just for the sake of like showing up in a factory floor and you're fitting rubbers to a machine. It's not. It has to have life so that you can come to it and add life to it every time you go back to the skill. So dog kennels, pigeon houses, goat pens, rabbit hutches, beekeeping sheds. You see, these are all under animal shelters or insect shelters. And then the other category would be storage solutions. So the storage solutions, it doesn't necessarily mean things you can consume. Let's take a scenario where someone has a gift as a mechanic. You can start an equipment store where you can find old tools. If you needed to fix something within your house, you can find any tool at that shop. So it's basically a place where you would go for tools to fix your car, tools to fix your equipment, tools to fix your plumbing, and it can generate an income to the guy who owns that shop. And this comes directly from someone who loves workshop and working with hands and tools. Another example would be a place where you store, this could be a yard, it doesn't have to be a structure, it could be a yard where you store like firewood, But you have this place where we all know that if you want to cut a tree, you can take it to Kamau because he buys and splits logs, and you can always go there for well-dried firewood, you see. And these are structures people don't think about a lot. So that means you are confined to using gas only when there are other energy sources. There is this charcoal that you can make from cow dung. I think they are called briquettes, or is that the name? Briquettes. And you could have a briquette store within someone's boma and within walking distance of like 6 families. And everyone would go there. Instead of going to cut trees, and you can go and buy briquettes from that person. Then another example would be recreational spaces. Right now we have a crisis where people are overweight. They may need to have, for example, sporting equipment and facilities. Like if I love biking, it's not hard to imagine that I could buy 50 bikes, okay, and be this place in the community whereby if I'm traveling, if someone is coming to that Ushago, they don't need to carry their bike. They can come and give me 200 bob. And since they are from the village, they can borrow the bike, cycle up and down for maybe 2 hours and return it, maybe twice a week. And you see, then you begin to have healthy communities because someone had to postpone consumption. You notice that for you to buy 50 bikes, you must postpone consuming that money for you to be able to have that store within that particular village. And then you see behind it, you can create a biking community. You see how counterintuitive it is. You can create a seed banking community. You can create a biking community. You can create a community of people who fabricate things and make simple farm tools. Like we do not have to buy everything, Like you can go and fabricate, okay? Then, or something like a DIY store, Another example would be a community, even a bakery. Think of a bakery as a production house, or a bakery with a community kitchen. You can come there and have a meal, You don't have to prepare all meals. And this would be helpful for bachelors within the community. So all these are just examples of production houses. You could even think of educational spaces where you can just go and you shuffle. Let's say a village has an engineer, an architect, a quantity surveyor. You can build one educational house, and we can have a schedule where these people come to train people on different aspects of this knowledge that they are gathering. Because what is happening now is that the village educates someone, they come and use that knowledge in the city, and then they go back as an empty, retired person. The village has not benefited. Postponing consumption means that you have something to invest. You are not able to invest, you are not able to grow if you do not have excess. Growth comes from excess. You have to grow, but if you're consuming everything, it means you have to go back again and slave and then gather. then if you do not have an arithmetic that makes you postpone consumption, you will not be able to become a producer, and you will not be able to grow wealthy. You will not have a better quality of life. Because if you operate from that matrix where you consume everything that you acquire, you will never make progress. And that means generationally, your children have to start from scratch. Because you consumed everything. Like you're trying to balance this book, and everything that comes in is going out. So the logic here is that we want to encourage more people not to consume everything. And the thing about it, the thing about this thinking is that we've only presented one option to people, that you can only build a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom house. And when they build this 3-bedroom house, what do most people do? They produce children. They buy television sets and a big fridge. And all these 3 things, or 4 or whatever, are geared towards demanding more. Soon you find the fridge is too small. Soon you find one child is not enough. You need 4. And what does it mean? If you have 3 children, you have to have presence in their life, minimum by law, for 18 years each. That's 54 years. That's one decision that is going to consume your attention for 54 years. I am for children, I have sons. But what I'm saying is, how about you produce fast, multiply wealth, and then you bring these children to manage this abundance with you. It's a better world, it's a more stable world. We will never have these statistics of people starving, you see. So postponement of consumption is where the thing is. And the solution we are providing is that before you do a 3-bedroom house, can you have 16 production houses? Can you own a bakery and a poultry farm and keep some rabbits and grow some food and contribute to that ecosystem in the village? And then out of that abundance, then you start saying that I deserve a good wife. You have a good wife. I deserve children. You have children. But they are not coming into a world of lack. They're coming into a world where you have already figured out how to sustain them, and any challenge life can throw at you. It will create even less dependence on government and aid. Taking an example from my own life about consumption versus production houses, I would say this. The first house I built was 200 square meters in Gikambura. It has 3 bedrooms, it has a workshop, and it has an office, a kitchen, a lounge space. But when you look at the thinking behind that house, it was simply to raise a family, okay? So it's basically a consumption house. That's where I would categorize it. But then I had another piece of land near my mother's house, and I needed to take care of her. And that meant that I needed to actually spend money from my pocket to sustain her life, okay? Because she's retired. And so I needed to build a house that would help me live near my mother, okay, when I visit. Because every time I went, I would lodge in a place where I'm paying 4,000 per day, 5,000 per day. It was not sustainable. But I noticed a trend. The first house I built was 200 square meters. The second house I built for myself was 100 square meters. I was now coming closer to sense, to reality. It simply had a place to sleep, a place to work, a work desk, and a small kitchen, which I've never used actually, because why would I be cooking and my mother is just across a few steps from me? But you can notice the trend is that I started with a 200 square meter house, and then I did a 100 square meter house. But it is the third house that my eyes opened when I built the third house. A small structure about 10 square meters, made of 1,000 bricks. This was to house turkeys and some poultry and pigeons. I love pigeons and birds. So when I built that house, I started asking myself, what does that house demand from me? The other house was demanding that I add a telly, I add a fridge, I add these things that are triggering more consumption. This third house that I built, the poultry house, was making a demand on me too. But it was saying, can you bring the turkeys? Can you bring the birds? And you can logically see that if I brought the birds and I put them there, the next task will be to just feed them and allow them to multiply. And then that's when I realized I should have begun there maybe have 6 different, one for geese, one for puppies, one for goats, another one for maybe even a horse, you know. And then, I mean, it would be fun to ride a horse in the village. So I would have begun there. And then when these things multiply, I would have looked for a market for these things. You see? And out of that money that I get from the market, I would easily sustain my mother and then work my way backwards. Now, this second house, I would get a beautiful girl in the village, and we would raise those children with this production that is happening. Because across the road, there's an acre where crops are growing. And you look at it, when you earn money in the city, where do you spend it? You spend it on food, you spend it on shelter, you spend it on clothing. And you see, if I have a gift of leatherwork, what is the harm in starting a small house next to my grandfather's house where I can have a leatherman, a man working on shoes and bags? That's what I mean by production houses. So we should start by housing our gifts before we start housing our bags. Because right now we are only housing our bags. Everyone is looking for a 3-bedroom house, a 2-bedroom house, the one that looks like that one in Karen. For what? To prove what point? Yet you have a gift that you neglect in your life. And it is your gift that will lift you. You see? Because if you love the guitar and you build a music room, what are you going to be producing? Songs, albums, in hundreds, in thousands. Can you imagine if the day you discover I'm a musician, there's a space that is just waiting you, equipped, ready for you to now just move in and start singing or start reciting, you know. So we should go, that example from my life only came after I had built the 3rd house. And no, most people don't have the same privilege or opportunity. Okay, I have it because I'm a builder, but the thing is, most people come to that end of life only to realize, wow, I should have built a smaller house. Only to discover you loved farming, but you never made room for it. Only to discover that you love baking. You should have owned a bakery. And this is true even now because I realize my mother is very good at preparing food. Not just because she's my mother, but honestly, she loves service. She loves serving food. And I'm just saying, I'm asking myself now, at this late hour, I'm asking myself, my mother would have prospered if she had a hotel. Because she loves serving and she loves cooking, you know. But then that is the thing. Life is funny because you have to run to the end then to realize these are the lessons. So what we're doing, we're saying, look, if you have a chance to start, your first salary, take it towards production. Own something, a bakery, something that, even a place where you can do crocheting. The reason why I can't give all examples is because people are so gifted in so many areas, but they just need to get that logic. Prioritize production before consumption. Produce before consuming. So the government has enough resources. It has a lot of money. Now think of this idea of consumption and production houses as a stick that is on the ground. And we label the stick A or C, and we label the stick on the other side P. So it's about which side do you pick the stick first. So when you begin by doing apartments for people to just live and go to work or jobs that don't exist, you've picked the stick from the wrong side. The idea I'm saying is not to overlook any side of the stick. We're saying we're going to pick this stick from the ground, but the order of picking it is what matters. So if I was a government officer, I would go into every village and map out all the skills that exist in that village. And I will begin with villages that have high population. I will not begin like a place like Konza because it has only very few people, less than 5,000 people. I would begin with a community that has a high concentration of people, something between 5,000 to 10,000 people and above, okay? Then I would map all the gifts that people have and the educational background of all the children from that village and the wazes, even those who are retired. And I would cluster them into their different giftings. You remember the theory of multiple intelligences. You can group people into maybe those who are sportsmen, those who have logic, mathematical intelligence, those who have relational skills. So once you map out these people, then you would look at the catalog of buildings that are existing in that. So for example, if you have banks and you have salons and you have watchmaking shops, you would check against a certain catalog of, let's say, 100 different structures. You would rank them. Which one does this village need the most? And then you build that, or you empower people to build that. But then we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We've already invented small structures you can build with, starting with 1,000 bricks. A brick is 10 shillings. So with 1,000 bricks, which you can actually bake, you can build the least of the production houses. So it is not a thing that needs a lot of money to start. It simply needs the goodwill and a person on the other end that is talented and willing to express their gift. So as a government, we would allocate money to every village to have a minimum of 20 production houses. Whether those will be tool making workshops, bakeries, or places where people can go and make clothes or crochet, we will decide according to the talents of each village. They are not individualistic, they are not community, they exist within communities, but they are very personal. These are very personal spaces because they answer to the gift that a person has. Remember, I started by saying you should do this only if you love yourself, because it comes from a place of love, and it comes from a place of saying, why is my back having a place to rest and my gift has no room? Why am I not able to express myself? Actually, this is an idea that comes out of every individual being selfish, and we are saying, why are you not faithful to your gift? Because if I have green fingers, they call them green fingers when someone is able to plant and plants just do well whatever they do. Why don't you have a garden of your own? Why can't people come to your garden to pick that flower and that flower? You see, and you see it on the roadside. All the people who plant flowers, who sell flowers on the roadside, they would do much better if they had a space of their own where they could direct the market and the market would come to them. So what is happening is that we have people who are gifted in wrong places. So we have people in the city who are actually supposed to be in the village. They would thrive more in the village, but now they are in the city looking for non-existent jobs. And when they get to the city, what happens? They are told there are these jobs in Saudi Arabia. Now they are being sent to another city. And when they are sent to another city, always notice it is a degradation. So if you are a gifted musician in the village, in the city, you don't find that you fit. Then you're told, go and now be a house help in Saudi Arabia. So you can see it's a downward slope. In the village, your gift would find the highest expression. In the city, there is no room for your gift. Because in the city, we just want rent. Na nyumba ni pesa flani. So what we are saying is that, can we go back and say, out of the little resources that we have, can we go back and house our gifts? So that when we say Paul is a great... Now there's a quote, they say that in the village where a man discovers a railway, the credit of the whole village rises. Think about it. If someone just made a railway line, I know right now people think it's impossible. If someone made a railway line in your village and it made locomotion or moving from point A to B easier for everyone, the credit of that village will rise because everybody can use it, even though it would be a private railway line. You see, that's what we're saying, that the moment we help to light, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And it is healthy competition if there's a dressmaker who has a stable job in the village and there's a baker who has a stable job in the village than waiting for loaves and dresses from Nakuru. Which one makes more sense? To have someone who can cobble for you a shoe next door in your village, or for you to wait for a shoe from Italy? Which one makes more sense? So in as much as this is individualistic, it is very capitalistic also in the way it stands. Because what we are saying, we can scale it. A good idea always works at a small scale and works at a bigger scale. There is no loss of value if you can own a seed bank, okay? And there is no harm if your neighbors can pay you a small fee to access certain seeds from you. But when we all outsource it to a seed company which gets privatized, we all lose, because the private company answers to shareholders who may not even step foot in your village. So we are trying to say we can build more resilient societies, not by building the big thing, because everyone wants to build a house that has a roof that is doing like this, as a flat roof as well. But what problem is it answering? These production houses answer a specific problem, and the problems are both internal and external. The internal problem is that this person is gifted and is looking for expression of their gift. And the external problem is that there is a need in the market. There are people who would love what this guy has. So we're just helping to birth gifts that people have, whether it's dressmaking or tool making, or it's making or beehives. What we're saying is that the direction these production houses will go will depend on the talent pool available in a particular village. So when you go in a heavily pastoralist community where we have thieves, we will do production houses that are not able to allow theft, but will allow these pastoralists to continue being pastoralists. We are not taking away anything. We're just saying that we can better express our gifts as builders in helping people realize their innate abilities, as opposed to having this one size fits all. Not everyone needs a 3-bedroom house. I may just need a thinking room, or I may just need a place for tools, or a music room. That's the essence. So it is very capitalistic, even though it looks like I'm trying to tell people to produce everything themselves. No, I'm saying specialization is also a viable option. And unless we are able to produce things for ourselves, we are not coming out of this poverty. We are not. We will not come out by borrowing. We will not come out by competing with these 3-bedroom houses. We're just producing more children. But what is the future that these children are coming to inherit?